Does that sound good?
Amazing.
Okay, so leadership for me this year was a 5-day event. So I went up, actually went up on the Monday night, and then Tuesday I had a Blue and Presidential Mastermind. Wednesday I went to the Courageous Leadership training with Andy and Natalie Goddard. And then Thursday was Diamond Day. Then Friday, Saturday was leadership. So I took heaps of notes for the first 3 days. Didn't take a whole lot of notes through leadership, but we did get to take home a guide and heaps of really great other stuff. And of course, it was amazing. I'm sure you guys have seen in the groups and felt the energy and heard how amazing it is. And I'm seeing it throughout the diamond and above groups too. Like all the diamonds and above, all the presidentials are all saying it was the best training they've ever been to, like ever. I truly couldn't think of a better training. Inside doTERRA, outside doTERRA, it was seriously the best week of training of my whole life. And it's really hard to share that with you guys with a few notes, because quite often it's not always exactly what people say, but it's about how they make you feel and how the words make you feel. And there was just a lot of vulnerability, a lot of truth talk, and a lot of the time, a lot of things people were saying, you sort of just sat there with it. And I wasn't really like, ooh, I need to share that with my team. Ooh, that would be good for so-and-so to hear. Because for me, it was good for me to hear. So I was sort of just sitting there with my own thoughts and how it related to me. But I will do my best to share with you guys. But as Kristen said, she's going to make it a priority for next year. And I totally get it. I know things get in the way. I know it can't always be a priority, and family does come first. But for me personally, for next year, and who knows what's going to happen for me personally, but for me at the moment, of course, I'm making it a priority. And I'm already thinking about babysitters for next year. I've already worded up a few family members on who's going to look after my kids. So I'm not just going to get to the month before leadership next year and think, ooh, crap, I've got no babysitters. I'm actually going to start planning that right now for convention and for leadership. Okay, notes. So on Tuesday was our Blue and Presidential Mastermind. So this was actually organised by Jessie Ramers. And all the Blue and Presidentials got together for the day and just really shared ideas. So the first part of the Presidential and Blue Mastermind, we just went in breakout groups and we just shared what's working really, really well in our teams or for our business, for ourselves. Some people were talking about some different coffee dates that they're having. Like I was having a good talk with Martha Nessler, and she was saying that just this month she's enrolled 8 people just by catching up with them for coffee. So she was saying that she would meet a new person and she would just say to them, hey, do you want to catch up for coffee this week? And she said that some of the time, she said most of the time doTERRA would just come up. She said the intention for the coffee date was her to just listen to them and listen to their needs. She said, but usually towards the end, after a little while, they'd ask her what she does, and of course she would talk to them about doTERRA. She said that 8 out of 10 of the people that she'd met with enrolled on the spot with essential, just from her listening to them and talking to them and getting into conversation. And I just said to her, well, how do you meet all these people? Heather, we might just mute you, Dale. It's all good. And we said, how do you meet all these people? And she said, there was one lady that I met at the supermarket. She was my cashier, and she asked her if she would meet for coffee because she was just having a really great chat with them. And she said, she's very outgoing. I can't imagine me doing that with the cashier person. It would probably be awkward as, but you guys might be great at that. So she said that she was talking to the cashier and just said to her, we need to meet up for coffee. And the cashier lady was like, really? You want to meet up for coffee? And she's like, yeah, I think it'd be great. I think we'd have lots of fun together. And she ended up having coffee and ended up getting essential oils and wanting to know more about what she does. So yeah, I just found that really interesting. But a lot of people were getting into doing expos and things like that. But the majority of people were just saying that they're getting back to the basics. They're doing the same things that they did when they first launched their business, which is obviously lots of classes and enrollments, etc. We also spoke about some new enrollment kits that we would love to see and gave some great ideas to corporate. A lot of people spoke about, and these are just ideas, this isn't stuff from corporate that's happening, but we'd like to put it to them. Spoke about ideas about making kits. So if you can create like your own kit or your own order for 200 PV for a brand new person, it just automatically waivers the $35 enrollment fee, just things like that. But there's lots of other ideas too, but they're just some things that we're putting to corporate. And if you guys ever have awesome ideas, like what you'd love to see in enrollment kits and things like that, make sure you let me know. Another thing was the wellness boxes. People are loving the wellness boxes, but people want them to be available not just on LRP, so just as one-off orders or even as an enrollment order. So that's something we're putting to corporate too. We spoke about elite retreats, which are events for elites and above, run by Blue and Presidential Diamonds in all states. So having them every 3 or 4 months in all states, so you can bring all your new people to brand new training that's local-ish in your capital city. So we spoke a little bit, and I did do a live in the Freedom Tribe today with some of these notes. I don't know if you guys all saw that, but we spoke a little bit about how the growth of doTERRA is stabling out a little bit. Obviously, doTERRA's growth is still remarkable, and we spoke about how most network marketing companies, or most companies in general, would give anything to have the kind of growth that doTERRA is still having today. Obviously, there was a few years where we were growing over 200% every single year. That's sort of slowing down a little bit, but definitely nothing to be concerned about. And we spoke a lot about, at Leadership, we spoke a lot about how many people actually have doTERRA accounts, less than 2% in Australia. I'm not sure if you guys saw that corporate were like quizzing people in the street who knows about doTERRA, and only 2 out of 100 people that Dylan spoke to knew what doTERRA was, which blows my mind. He spoke to 100 people, only 2 knew what doTERRA was. 1 person thought doTERRA was a comedian. No. So we spoke to some people that have been in it for like 9 or 10 years. Natalie and Andy Goddard have been since the start, so they've been with doTERRA for 11 years. So she just spoke about how she's seen markets have incredible growth and then stable out after that. And for a business to have incredible growth, one of 2 things can happen. Either it stables out or it just crashes. We can't expect to just be growing like this forever. It's just not reality. Leonie Featherstone, who's an Australian Blue Diamond, I think she took about 7 or 8 years to get to Blue Diamond. She's been around for 8 or 9 years. She was talking about how her business over the last 8 or 9 years has been growing like this. Very strong, very consistent, very stable. And she said that she's just been chipping away at her business. She said that this last year or last 2 years, she's seen no difference in her business. She said that she has committed, stable customers that are going to continue to order. She's got a committed, strong team that continues to do their couple of classes each month, and it's just a strong, stable team that has not had any dips or anything this last year. She spoke about how she's seen people, like, while she's doing this, she's seen people do this and then drop out, or do this and then go a bit slower. She said, but the way to get the residual income and the way to have the stability in our team is to really have committed customers that are committed to stand by the products, okay, that love the products. They're not just here for the hype and the excitement, that they love the products, that it's part of their day-to-day lifestyle. And she said that she knows she is still in contact with the majority of the people that she's enrolled. She has a very close relationship with them. She gives them constant education, constant catch-up classes. She's there for her customers, okay, and they stand by her as well. So she spoke about that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, so that's most of my notes from the Tuesday. The Wednesday was the courageous leadership. If you guys have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Wednesday was courageous leadership. So this is the one from Andy and Natalie Goddard, and this was based on the Dare to Lead, Brené Brown book. I'm not sure if you guys have read that, but they had a lot of learnings from them. So it was obviously speaking a lot about being brave in your leadership, and that vulnerability is the key to being brave. There was a lot, it was a very powerful session. There was a lot of people that were being very vulnerable with about their businesses, and we had probably 5 or 6 presidential diamonds get up on stage and share a vulnerable moment with everybody, just about what's happening in their business. Another one of my most powerful quotes from this training is that as a leader, giving gold stars is far more important than receiving them. So that really hit home for me, and just the importance of celebrating our team, focusing on our team, celebrating them instead of always focusing on ourselves and what we can reach and what we can earn. The more we help other people achieve their goals, the quicker it's going to help us achieve ours in the long run anyway. But a true leader is a person that is out there giving gold stars, not focusing on receiving them. Then another takeaway was about storytelling and how powerful storytelling is, and that 70% of our story should be about our problem and what that caused for us, and only 30% should be on the solution. So what that means is, if we're talking about our story with the oils, for example, we talk about what our problem was that got us interested in them. So what the results were, sort of what it caused, and then the 30% is the solution. And that's the same with the business. So 70% of our story should be about our problem that we had in the first place and why we've chosen doTERRA. And one of the quotes was, we may impress people with our strengths. So people might be impressed by things we've achieved and our strengths, but we cannot connect with people. We can only connect with people through our weaknesses. Okay, so I really liked that. Another thing that I really loved, I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, it's a book by David Hawkins, and he's got a map of consciousness. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the map of consciousness, but up the top are the life supporting levels of consciousness. So only 15% of people stay in these life-supporting levels of consciousness. So these, up the top level is obviously enlightenment. Then it goes down to peace, joy, love, reason, acceptance, willingness, and courage. Okay, so they're the life-supporting levels of consciousness. Only 15% of people really stay there. 85% of people spend a lot of their time in life-suppressing consciousness. And from the top down, it goes pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, guilt, shame. So it got everybody to think about where they sit most of the time with their business. And a lot of people that quit their business are usually because they're in the lowest form of consciousness, which is guilt or shame. So people, like, the lowest level of consciousness is shame, and people that feel shameful about what they've achieved or about their business, or they've done something that they're ashamed of, or haven't done something and are ashamed of it, that's the most life-suppressing level of consciousness. So when you think about people in your team that maybe have had really big goals and haven't reached those goals and are stuck in shame, it's going to be really difficult for them to get out of that and get to a higher level of consciousness. So it's really important for us to be self-aware of that and allow ourselves to move through to get to the life-supporting levels of consciousness. Hope this is making sense, but it was really interesting, and I encourage you guys to check out David Hawkins. Okay, his map of consciousness. I'm sure if you Googled it, he's probably got lots of work on that as well. Okay, Diamond Day. We had an incredible speaker on Diamond Day, and he's actually a speaker that I listened to about 5 years ago when I was in corporate, and his name's Dr. Adam Fraser. And when he spoke, years ago when I watched him, he spoke about a third space. And this third space is in between going from work to home life, and really just, instead of going from work, being all frazzled and bossing people around or whatever it looks like in corporate, and then going home and then start bossing around your family, be all wired up and not being able to separate yourself from those two spaces. He spoke about a third space. So a space where it's either your ride home in the car or on the train, or even just a space that you can go into your bedroom and do a meditation or something like that before you go into the next space. He just talks about the benefits of that. And I heard that a long time ago, and it's something I've been practicing since then. So my third space has always been shut my computer half an hour before I go pick up the kids and read a book for half an hour, and then I'm ready to pick up my kids and in the right mindset for that. But he also spoke a lot about happiness. Hang on, I've got Spencer here. What's up, mate? Good night, buddy. Love you. Sorry. He spoke a lot at the beginning about happiness, and he spoke about happiness is when you've got something to achieve. He spoke about that you need to be stretching or challenging yourself at all times to be in a state of happiness. He said boredom is the most devastating space to be in. He gave an example of, he's been working in Dubai and he's been speaking to people there because somebody from Dubai, a princess actually from Dubai, came and saw him speak in Australia, and she said to him, I want you to come and speak to our people in Dubai. And he's like, aren't you guys like the richest people in the world? Why do I need to speak to you? And she spoke to him about how in Dubai, they were up in the top 5 of the happiest countries in the world, and now it had dropped significantly lower. And she spoke about how their government had so much money that they didn't know what to do with it all, that the government paid off everyone's debts. So everyone was completely debt-free A lot of people didn't really have to go to work very much. People were very entitled, and had nothing to work towards, basically. So they had become a very unhappy culture because they had nothing to strive for. They had no purpose. So he actually asked us, what are you most proud of? You don't want to move there. You need something to strive for. Delete your comments. He asked us, what are you most proud of? And he said, you're not allowed to say your children. So I want you guys to just think about for a moment, what are you most proud of achieving in your life? And like, he got everyone to think about that. And then he went around and asked a few people what theirs was. And he said, I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times, and not once has anyone said, I'm most proud of watching Netflix like a badass. He said most people, what they're most proud of is something that they've really struggled with. It's a struggle they've had, that they've had a lot of difficulties and they've overcome that. He spoke about how successful people understand that struggle makes them stronger and brings them closer to their goals. Successful people understand that struggle is just part of the road to success. He said that most people choke once they have a bit of a struggle. They focus more on the outcome, which could be the time frame or the expectations on how it should look for them. They don't find the joy and the challenge of the execution. They don't find the joy in the struggle. Okay, so he said that successful people are the ones that find the joy and see the positive side of what the struggle is. So yeah, that was a really great session. And then we had breakout sessions with all the presidential diamonds. And I've spoken for way too long. I'm going to pass it to Erin, and she's going to speak about leadership now.
Thanks. I just loved all that you just said, and I've taken heaps of notes just from your little talk, so it would have been amazing. I really wanted to start by probably reiterating what Kim said, that it was seriously the most amazing training. And I was only there for 2 days. I stayed for one night, but it was really amazing, and the energy that you walk away from. So like Kim said, if you can make it a priority, everyone who is doing doTERRA now has the capacity to be at least Premier by this time next year. So it's one to, even if that's your reason to try and get to Premier or Silver, you will really, really love the training. It's amazing. So I actually have really messily put some of my slides on a PowerPoint so that I could share them. I'll just bring them up. It's not going to work for me. Just 2 seconds. Sorry, guys. All right. Can you guys all see that? Yeah, cool. So these are just some of the notes. Kim mentioned some of these, so I'll flick through them pretty quickly. But this was the market penetration in Australia. So you can see, like, I'm in Victoria, and only 1.3% of Victorians have doTERRA accounts. So there's still obviously heaps of room for us to move. I really liked, a few people spoke about this model of any business, which is what Kim sort of spoke about a little bit before. I know these are a little bit blurry because they're obviously photos of the slides, but when anything, where business starts, generally the innovators are the first ones. So if you look at something like an iPhone, you'll have the people who are the innovators, or the innovators are the ones that obviously create it. You'll have the early adapters as well that will be the ones that line up at the door. So when it's first getting released, I think it's the innovators, they'll be lining up at the door, and as soon as that iPhone is released, they will grab it. And then once, those innovators have that iPhone, some of their friends will see it and be like, oh, that's really cool, I'm going to go and get it, because they've seen it in work. And they're the early adopters. Then as it becomes bigger, we get that early majority, and then it kind of can move into everyone pretty much has got it. And then those people who are really slow off the mark may eventually get it. And so what we're talking about is that is most businesses. You don't always move through the whole thing. So you might get to early adopters and then it may drop away. Not every product that's ever been released onto the market obviously goes and is in every home. So in between those sort of areas, they talk about the chasm. So, and I know Adam Berry spoke about this is sort of where we are in the market, where we're pushing through into that early majority. So this is a stage that all of the markets all across the world, the US was here quite a few years ago, where the people who are going to take it on that are really open and probably aware of essential oils, they've kind of jumped on board of doTERRA. Just off the top of my head, if you think about people who are already into energy systems and yoga and things like that, they're probably part of these early adapters, sort of like we are. And now it's time to get to that next stage of growth, which is where we need to change our strategy slightly and maybe think of the people, how to reach those next group of people, because it might change up the way we approach them slightly to really move into that early majority. So we're still getting growth, we're still moving forward, but this is just a normal part of growing a business, I guess. There was lots of really amazing speakers at Leadership. I got lots out of, I put in my group, and I can definitely send them to you, Carla, as well. But I loved listening to Alice Nichols talk about sales. She went through some of the new sales brochure and talked about why we need to get over ourselves, basically, when we're talking about selling. Which was really amazing. So that's one that's really great to listen to. And another one that I recorded and put in my group was Dr. Martha Nessler. She spoke about a couple of the things that Kim has spoken of tonight, but just the power of embracing who you are and going out there and creating that energy to attract builders, and how to find builders, and how it really starts with you and the energy you put out and how you feel about your business as well. If you're not confident, if you don't love what you're doing, people will feel that. So I'll definitely give you those two videos that you can have a look at. It's worth watching. But as always, I loved Alison Bartolo. I've heard her speak a number of times now, and every time I hear her talk, I actually get something new out of. And for me, this is probably one of my biggest aha moments for leadership, was talking about not just the benefits of LRP, but how vital LRP is. And it's really something that I recognise that could make a really huge difference, certainly in our team. So there's just a few notes there, but what they talk about is, a lot of people's talked about planting the seed. So when we connect with people, when you're sampling, inviting, presenting, even enrolling them, that is actually the start of someone's journey. That is us planting a seed with them. And what some people get really focused on, and I know that sometimes, it's really important to still be going out and enrolling new people, but their journey doesn't finish when they are enrolled. It's really just the beginning. And as you can see on the next slide, that part is really that seeding, but they have so much growth left to go once they enroll with us. And that's where we really need to support people and get them educated to really not only buy a kit and get essential oils, like it needs to be more than just essential oils in every home. They need to embrace the lifestyle of doTERRA. We need these people to really change their lives and have that transformation happen. Not only for our businesses, but obviously if you're in this to really help people and to serve people, that's what's really going to change their lives. Just buying a kit of oils isn't really going to make all the difference. Now, Alison went through this, which I thought was so super powerful. She did one line at a time, but I've only taken a couple of photos. But what she went through is if you enroll 15 people a month and 2 of them go on to LRP, you can reach elite in 1 month, premier in 9 months. And it would take you about 10 years and 10 months to get to diamond. So 15 enrollments a month is a lot, but you're only getting to convert to LRP. So that's sort of what your growth looks like. And obviously this is just looking at you, not if people in your team are enrolling, but it still starts to show you that growth and where it comes from. If you increase that to still enroll 15 per month, but you get 3 people on LRP, I'm not sure if it is based, sorry, Carla, on, no, I don't know how to get rid of that, everyone being on LRP. I think so. I think it was to do with like a 100 PV LRP. But so if you just increase that by 1 person, an extra person going on LRP each month, you actually cut 3 years off your road to diamond. So she said, what if we go really super crazy and if you enrolled 15 people and you got 10 onto LRP each month, then you would actually reach diamond in 27 months. So obviously LRP is really crucial for your growth, but she sort of went that step further and went, okay, well, if you can't do 15, what if you enrolled 10 people a month, but you got 10 people onto LRP? You're not enrolling as many people, but you're still going to, it only adds an extra month for you to get to diamond, which is pretty amazing. And like I said, it's obviously just a little bit of theory to show you the difference. And that doesn't include if other people are enrolling and things like that, but just to give you an idea of the difference in outcome of what happens when your customers go onto LRP. And then she gave the example at the end there of imagine if you enrolled 19 people each and every month, but no one ever went onto LRP, you'd actually never be able to get beyond elite. You don't have a residual income. You are going out and becoming a kit seller, basically. An enrollment seller, you have to go and show up every month to get your fast start because you're never going to get any further through your ranks. So that really hit home for me, just that importance of LRP, and it is the bread and butter, and we need to really support people and encourage them that, I know Kim always says it to me, I'd rather enroll 2 people and get 2 people on LRP than enroll 5 people and have none on LRP. It's really nurturing those people, building that connection and that relationship so they embrace this lifestyle and they can get those changes. And then when you look at doTERRA understand that that benefit, because when you look at the qualifications for the incentive trip, it's not who enrolls the most people. You get some points, so you could get 2 or 3 points from the enrollment, but the majority of your maximum points, like your 8 points or your 9 points that you get for your incentive trip, actually comes from them being on LRP, because that is the foundation of how to grow and build your business. She gave the example, I'm just going to skip a couple of things here, like short-term and long-term friends. Obviously, the short-term ones are there for the good times, but the long-term ones stick around. And that's basically, you know, all your enrollments, your incentives, BOGOs, everything like that in the short term are your short-term friends, but the long-term and your residual income comes from LRP. I'm just going to stop that share. She gave the example, I've just got 3 minutes to go, but she gave the example of Henrietta, who is a presidential diamond. I think she's in Norway, isn't she, Kim? But she has, I can't remember if it was 600 or 1,000 people in her entire presidential diamond team, but every single one of her, like the people in her tree, do a 200 PV LRP every month. So she's presidential diamond with quite a small team, but she, no, you're okay, Kim. She, like when you heard, if you did the, what was that training that we just did? She presented the live brochure, and she spoke about how she presents a class and that their journey starts when they enroll with her. It was really amazing. So if you did sign up for that launch camp, sorry, it was, yeah, I think it was either 600 Carmen or 1,000. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's, yeah, like she talks about that's the start of their journey, and she wants to enroll people who want to bring through this lifestyle, and that's how she gets them committed. And if you look in Norway, they have a really small product range. So for them to embrace that lifestyle, they are purchasing that every single month. And it's so totally possible. You know, if you now start to think about who's in your team, who you perhaps haven't nurtured, who bought some oils but it hasn't changed their life, how can you educate them on LRP and the lifestyle and bring it about in service of really looking after them and getting them on LRP? We've got less than a minute, so I will leave it there. I've talked pretty fast, but LRP was a really big takeaway for me with leadership, and that was just one talk. So I hope that inspires you. I'm happy to share some of those other videos that I do have, so you can have a look at them. But yeah, please all get there next year. It was really, really amazing. And feel free to ask questions or send me questions, because I've kind of run out of time. Cool. Well, thanks very much, everyone. Thanks, Kim, for jumping on as well.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
All right.
See ya.